Hi everyone. Today I'll be talking about my experience at Newham General Hospital. So in the summer of 2017, I was pregnant with my second daughter. Um, Everything seemed to be going okay. I had to go in a couple of weeks before my due date because I developed liver disease in pregnancy, which can be harmful to the baby. There's a high chance of your baby being stillborn if you carry to term with it. So, I went to the hospital. They put the gel in the morning and again in the afternoon. And I was told that I was 2 centimeters dilated by the time they put the second gel in. Which looking back, I think since I was already dilating by myself, I don't know if the second dose of the gel was necessary, but it was fine. It wasn't an issue. Within a couple of hours, I was in pain. I was having contractions. And about an hour after that, I was in extreme pain. I was having contractions once every 15 seconds. They left a student midwife in charge of the whole entire ward. I don't even know how that's legal or possible. She was completely alone and I was in pain. I asked her for pain relief. She wouldn't even give me gas and air. I don't know what was wrong with her or why she was so mean or just not taking me seriously. Like I've had a child before. I know what it's about. I know my kid is coming. Why aren't you believing me? And she just wouldn't believe me. So within another 40 minutes to an hour of constant screaming because I was having constant contractions, I was in so much pain, she comes back into where I was. She pulls out the curtain and she's like, "Can you be quiet? You're disturbing the other woman and they need to sleep. Everyone here is getting ready to have a baby." She wouldn't believe that I was in labor. This woman must have shoved her hand up my vagina about 7, 8 times, and she kept saying, "You're not even dilating, stop being so dramatic. You're so loud, you're disturbing everyone," like making me feel really awful when I was in a lot of pain. And I said to her, "Well, the day midwife, Natasha, she checked me when she put the second dose of the gel in and she said I was 2 centimeters, and this woman was telling me, oh, okay, well, if she said that, then I guess you're still 2 centimeters." Like she couldn't tell herself and she was just guessing, which is so completely unprofessional. So she came back again and said, "You're making too much noise. I'm going to give you an injection since you're being so dramatic and it should help with the pain." When you're in so much pain, you start to go a bit delirious. I did not even feel this injection. I don't feel like it helped me at all. It was just a waste of medicine, really. My child was literally coming out of me and I was prying my legs shut, trying to slow it down because I wasn't in a labor ward. I was in the pre-labor ward. So after constant screaming, a senior midwife came downstairs to check on what was going on, and she saw that my daughter was, on her way out, literally, and she pulled the emergency button and I was rushed upstairs and I gave birth 2 minutes later. I bleed, like I lose a lot of blood with labor. This is something that happened in my first pregnancy, so I let them know before I gave birth to be something to watch out for. And the same thing was happening. I was told I lost just under, I think it was 2 liters of blood. It was really awful. Like the floor was just covered in blood. It was honestly something from a horror story. The doctor whom I had met the previous day, she came to introduce herself to me to say, "I will be the doctor on call in case anything goes wrong. I've read your file." She seemed really nice, really professional. And in front of my family, she seemed okay. I was in a lot of pain, so no matter how she tried to touch me, I was just telling her not to. But her main concern was obviously stopping the bleeding and stitching me up. And It just wasn't working for me. So she said that she was going to take me into theatre. My blood pressure bottomed out, so at this point I couldn't even sign a consent form. I couldn't hold my hand up or my arm, couldn't really hold a pen. So my mum put a pen in my hand, and she was basically holding my hand and writing for me. I don't even know if that's legally allowed, but they seemed fine with it. Um, I don't have an issue with this. I think it was most likely necessary. Once I was in the theatre room without any family present, had all these people, I think about 8 people around me, um, and they were just prodding me all over the place. I was uncomfortable. I didn't know what was happening. I was still a bit delirious. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even sit up because my blood pressure was so low. And she was saying to me, I'm going to sedate you because, you're still losing blood. And I said, I don't need to be sedated. Just do it. And she was so rude. It was like, oh, her relatives aren't here, so I can talk to her any way I want. And she was just like, no, you're too fat for me to stitch you up, like, without you being sedated. So I'm going to sedate you. Stop complaining. She was just being utterly awful. Out of all the people in that room, there was one midwife called Bola. She was such a sweetheart. I was so scared, so frightened. And she honestly is the only person in that room that treated me like I was a human being. At this point, I still hadn't seen my baby. Like, once she was born, they just took her to clean her up and get her dressed. And because of all the problems I was having, I didn't even get to look at her. I didn't get to see her. I was worried. I wanted my child. I wanted to see if she was okay. I was thinking maybe I harmed her because I was, holding her in, holding my legs shut. So maybe I hurt her. No one would really tell me anything. And this amazing midwife, Bola, she held my hand and she was just stroking my hand and just talking to me, not yelling at me or screaming at me. She was just talking. She looked at me and she said, "It's okay, Sophia, it's going to be okay. Um, your baby's fine. Just try to relax. The doctor's trying to help you." And within a couple of minutes, whatever they gave me knocked me out. But for what felt like 10 minutes was actually hours. I gave birth at 11:53 p.m. After that whole ordeal, I woke up, it was around 4 a.m., and my main concern was my baby. But she was next to me. She was at the end of the bed in the little baby beds they have. And that same midwife, Bola, she came to check up on me. She said, "Your baby's fine." She let me see her and let me hold her for a few minutes. And I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't want to hold her for too long because I could feel it. I knew I was going to be sick. And I was still really weak. I still couldn't sit up or anything. I ended up throwing up all over myself. So I was looking for my phone. I was so weak that I couldn't raise my arm enough to look for my phone under the pillow that I had. So the midwife came and got it for me. She had another midwife with her. Unfortunately, I don't remember her name. She was also a really big sweetheart, really, really kind. Honestly, if it wasn't for those two, the only people that showed me kindness. So she gave me my phone and I texted my mom. My mom stayed at the hospital along with my in-laws and my partner. And she said that she was fine. She was just waiting to hear from me. And I fell back to sleep. I woke up in a completely different room. Basically, when you have a C-section, they put you in this room where you have 24-hour midwife attention, which means the midwives are there to take care of your babies because you had a C-section, so, you can't really move, you struggle to feed and things like that. I did not have a C-section, but I had to be put on this ward because my blood pressure was so extremely low. I had to have a pee bag because I couldn't walk to the toilet. Had this machine strapped to me that checked my blood pressure every 5 minutes. Even throughout the night, had this pee bag. That doctor, I don't know if she did it out of spite. Normally when you have a pee bag, the tube is actually really small. She put this huge tube inside my vagina and that fucking thing was hurting me. It's all I could feel, literally. It was like, why did she put such a big, thick tube. It just seemed so unnecessary. No one had one like mine, and I honestly don't know if she did this out of spite or maybe it was just what she had handy. I don't know. I wanted it out of me, but they wanted me to wait for a doctor, and I was still really dizzy. My blood pressure was still really low. Like I couldn't even put jam on toast or butter, couldn't hold a knife, couldn't really hold my baby without, my mom helping me. Um, However, the midwives in that room were really nice, really professional. They helped me. My baby, I was told she had low blood sugar, so they put her on this incubator thing that just produces heat and stuff. That they do. They were very attentive with her. I don't have issues with that whatsoever. Around 3 or 4 days later, they moved me to the normal post-labor ward. My blood pressure was finally back to a decent. I think it was back to normal. I wasn't dizzy anymore, and I could walk and stuff. So I think it was fine. I had a shower because, since giving birth and being put on that ward, I couldn't walk, and, giving me a shower, I guess, wasn't medically necessary. So all I wanted to do was just get in the shower. So I went to have a shower. My bed was next to the bathroom, actually. And as I come out, wrapped in a towel, soaking wet, that student midwife that was supposed to be looking after me, the one that was left in charge of the whole ward for some reason, came up to me with tears in her eyes, and she opened her arms, and I just remember taking a step back, like, what do you want? Sort of thing. Like, I was just looking at her, and she was just apologizing, and she wanted to hug me, and I was just telling her, like, I'm soaking wet. She was like, I don't care, and she put her arms around me, and she was crying, and she was saying that she was sorry. Um, she, and I didn't really know how to respond. I just thought, why are you putting your guilt on me? You want to apologize so you can get rid of your guilty conscience, sorry. Like, I didn't even know what to say. Like, I just stared at her, and I was just baffled. Like, really? You think an apology makes up for what you did to me? I just went back to, my little cubicle with the curtain, and I got dressed. And yeah, I couldn't wait to leave that hospital. And I know some people might think, oh, that wasn't that bad. You left the hospital with a healthy baby and stuff. I still have therapy to this day. I still have flashbacks. For the first year of my child's life, I had constant panic attacks and nightmares about this woman and what she did to me, about my labor experience. I couldn't, I suffered with postpartum depression with my first child. So that was my biggest fear, was, oh my God, I don't want to get that again. Like, I finally got healthy. So I don't know, in some weird way, I thought the best way is to just maybe bridge some distance. So I was busy, for a brand new parent of a newborn. I was very busy. I made sure that I wasn't stuck in the house all day, every day, so that I still had some time to myself, so that I could, I don't know, feel like I could breathe, I guess. I was still with my baby every single day, but I was out during the day for a couple of times a week, just to give myself me time, just to have time to put things into perspective, which is so rare. And I feel so guilty about that, because I look at my children now, and the one that was born that day, and she gives me so much love, affection, joy, happiness, literally so much happiness. And I just think, if that hadn't gone so badly, I wouldn't have missed so much time with her, because I was so afraid of getting postpartum depression again. And like, my postpartum depression was terrible. Like, I was suicidal at one point. So I was so afraid of going back into that deep hole. And I just really resent that she took that from me, the ability to be with my daughter and appreciate all the little moments that you never really get again, you know? Um, it was just such a horrible experience. I got pregnant again before my second daughter turned 1. She wasn't even 1 yet. And did I feel joy or happiness? No, I felt scared and panicky. I found out I was pregnant and had a panic attack. So bad that I actually fainted in my living room. And not because we can't afford to have more children, or not because we didn't have the room, you know, none of those reasons. I was panicking because I was just so afraid of, oh my God, how on earth am I going to give birth? How on earth am I going back to a hospital? And you know, my biggest nightmare was coming true. I'm gonna have that woman, you know, harming me, like not believing me. I was so scared that I made the decision to have an abortion, which is something that I deeply regret. And I remember them asking me at the clinic, you know, why is it you want an abortion? And I looked at the woman and I was just like, oh, you know, it's financial reasons. And that was a lie. I didn't know how to explain to her how utterly terrified I was of having another child because of what that woman did to me. And yes, she was a student midwife and she shouldn't have been left alone. But how on earth do you decide to go into midwifery and to work in a hospital? Your main job is to listen to your patients, you know, to not do more harm than good, and to so explicitly ignore me and ignore what I was telling you. To this day, I will regret having an abortion. I will regret that for the rest of my life. It was a decision I made that I deeply regretted, but it was the right one for me at the time. What would pregnancy have been like? Constant panic attacks. I just didn't even know how I would function. And I really hate that I did that. I'm very against abortion unless it's medically necessary, and I ended up making a decision that I hated, and that goes against everything I believe in because I was terrified. I don't know if I will ever forgive myself. Like, I look at my kids and they bring me so much joy, and I always think there's supposed to be another one here. You know, I still look at that scanned picture and apologize, look up to the sky and apologize and ask my grandpa to look after my baby, you know, because it was a life it didn't deserve to end. And that is something that I will be guilty about for the rest of my life, really. She took so much from me. This is probably something that she doesn't even think about anymore. This is something that is with me all of the time. All of the time. The flashbacks, the nightmares, the panic attacks aren't so common anymore, but they still happen a few times a week. The extreme anxiety to the point I can't leave the house sometimes. That's what she did to me, and she probably got away with it scot-free because no one ever called me from that hospital. No one checked up on me throughout my hospital stay, which was a long one. It was over a week. I think it was literally just like a day or two before 2 weeks. No one came to ask, no one checked, no one cared. It's like, you know, she knew she fucked up. I'm sure she wouldn't have come to apologize to me unless, you know, someone higher up probably told her to. I don't know. Maybe she felt genuinely guilty. Like, I don't know. No one cared. No one called. No one checked up on me. They just don't give a flying fuck, honestly. So just before my daughter's first birthday, I sent a complaint in to the NHS, and I had sent a complaint in during my pregnancy a couple of months before I gave birth, so I know I had all the right details and emails and stuff. And no one ever got back to me. It's like they thought, oh, like a year's almost up for her to make a complaint, so we're just not even gonna bother. And bear in mind that my point wasn't to sue the NHS or to get money off of them. The point of my complaint was just to make sure that woman didn't harm anyone else, didn't put any other young woman, through their trauma. And they just couldn't care less. They just can't be bothered. Every time my friends are pregnant and I congratulate them and I'm like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And I'm like, oh, like, where are you planning on giving birth? And they're like, oh, Newham General, because it's the closest. I always tell them, go to Homerton, because it might be further away, but you'll probably get better treatment. Honestly, I would rather give birth in my bathtub than go back to that hospital to give birth. It'll forever be with me, what they did, what that woman did, what she was allowed to get away with. It's just awful, and it's terrifying that things like that are happening here in England. We're supposed to have the best medicine in the world, really, but no, it's just ridiculous. I just want to warn other people, don't be like me. Don't end up making decisions that you'll regret for the rest of your life. Don't let anyone dictate. Don't let anyone take your power from you the way I did. I wish I could do that day over and just tell that woman to get the fuck away from me and get me a proper, fully trained, qualified midwife. Or sometimes I wish I had given birth in the morning when the day midwives were back. I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs, but unfortunately we can't turn back time